6 months after I disappeared, my son hired a private investigator to find me. The detective stood at my door in Montana, holding a folder thick with evidence of my new life. "Broderick Thompson?" he asked. I smiled and shook my head. "Never heard of him. Name's William Carter." Behind me, my new wife Sarah called out, asking who was at the door. The investigator's eyes widened as he glimpsed the happy home I'd built without my children. "Tell them Broderick Thompson died the day they forgot he existed." 8 years before that Montana morning, I stood in my kitchen in Dallas, staring at the casserole I'd spent 3 hours preparing. The dining table was set for 5, just like every Sunday for the past 30 years. Except now, one chair would remain forever empty. Margaret, my wife of 35 years, had been gone for exactly 3 months. The cancer took her quickly, which everyone said was a blessing. I didn't see it that way. Quick meant I barely had time to say goodbye. Quick meant our children flew in for the funeral and flew out just as fast. Quick meant I woke up one day, married, and went to bed a widower. But tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight, Douglas, Jennifer, and Patricia were coming for Sunday dinner, just like old times. I'd even made Margaret's famous green bean casserole following her handwritten recipe card, stained with decades of use. 6 o'clock came and went. Then 6:30. By 7, I was calling Douglas. "Dad." "Oh, right. Sunday dinner. Listen, I'm swamped with this merger. Rain check." So, Jennifer's excuse was her daughter's soccer practice. Patricia claimed she had emergency surgery, though I could hear restaurant noise in the background. I packed up the casserole, put it in the refrigerator, and sat alone at the table meant for 5. The silence was deafening. Margaret would have called them, given them an earful about family obligations. But Margaret was gone, and apparently so was their reason to show up. The next morning, I decided to stop by Douglas's office with lunch. His secretary gave me a pitying look. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, but Douglas is in meetings all day." I could see through the glass partition. Douglas was at his desk alone, typing on his computer. When he glanced up and saw me, he quickly looked away. That evening, I found out why. I'd gone to Patricia's house to drop off some of Margaret's medical textbooks she'd asked for months ago. The front door was ajar, and I could hear voices inside. My children were all there, huddled around Patricia's dining room table with papers spread everywhere. "The lake house alone is worth $800,000, Douglas was saying. "If we can get Dad to sign it over now, we avoid probate later." "But how do we bring it up?" Jennifer asked. "It's only been 3 months." Patricia laughed, not a kind laugh. "Please. He's lonely and desperate for our attention. We throw him a few bones, have dinner with him once a month, and he'll sign anything we put in front of him." I backed away from the door, my heart hammering. These weren't my children. These were strangers wearing familiar faces, discussing my demise like a business transaction. That night, I did something Margaret would have called paranoid. I started a journal, not a diary of feelings, but a record. Every unreturned call, every declined invitation, every broken promise. I downloaded a call recording app on my phone. I started saving text messages. 2 weeks later was my 58th birthday. Margaret always made German chocolate cake from scratch. I attempted it myself, following her recipe. It turned out lopsided and too sweet, but it was something. I texted all 3 children a week in advance, reminded them twice. Douglas said he'd try to make it. Jennifer promised to bring dessert. Patricia said she wouldn't miss it. I waited until 9 that night. The cake sat untouched, candles unlit. Not one of them even called. The next day, Douglas texted, "Sorry, Dad. Crazy day at work. Happy belated." Jennifer sent the emoji cake 2 days later. Patricia never acknowledged it at all. I'd been documenting everything for a month when the real revelation came. I'd gone to my country club for golf, a Wednesday tradition I'd maintained for 15 years. My usual foursome seemed uncomfortable when I approached. "Broderick," Tom Stevens finally said, "we weren't sure you'd be up for golf anymore, considering—" "Considering what?" The men exchanged glances. "Well, Douglas mentioned you've been having some memory issues. Said you've been confused about dates and times. My blood ran cold. Douglas said that at the club dinner last week. Said that's why you missed his promotion party. Jennifer confirmed it. Said the family is handling it privately. I hadn't been invited to any promotion party. There had been no mention of Douglas getting promoted. I excused myself from golf and drove straight to my doctor. 3 hours and a battery of tests later, Dr. Morrison looked at me over his glasses. Broderick, your cognitive function is exceptional for a man your age. Whatever your son is telling people, it's not based on any medical reality. I had him put it in writing. Then I drove home and made a phone call to Harold Weatherby, my lawyer and friend for 20 years. Harold, I need you to help me understand something. If my children are telling people I have dementia, what could they gain? Harold's silence spoke volumes. Finally, he said, "Bring me everything you've documented. And Broderick, start moving your assets, quietly." That night, I sat in Margaret's chair, running my fingers over the worn fabric. She'd seen this coming. In her final days, when the morphine made her truthful, she'd gripped my hand. "They love money more than memories," she'd whispered. "Promise me you'll protect yourself." I'd thought it was the drugs talking. Now I knew better. I looked at the photo on the mantel, our family at Jennifer's college graduation. 5 smiling faces, arms around each other. When had those smiles become masks? I picked up my phone and listened to the recording of Patricia at her dinner table. Her voice, clinical and cold, discussing my assets like I was already in the ground. My baby girl, whom I'd walked the floor with during colic, who'd clung to my neck during thunderstorms, who'd cried in my arms when her first boyfriend broke her heart. A text came through. "Douglas, Dad, I need to discuss Mom's estate. Can you meet me at my office tomorrow? Bring the lake house deed." I texted back, "Of course, son. What time?" Then I called Harold. "I need to move faster on those asset transfers. And I want to install security cameras in my home." "Broderick, are you sure about this?" I thought about the empty chairs at my birthday dinner, the unanswered calls, the lies about my mental state. They fired the first shot, Harold. They just don't know I'm fighting back yet. 2 hours later, I had another text from Douglas. "Actually, Dad, bring all the property deeds. We want to make sure everything is organized." I smiled grimly at my phone. They thought I was a lonely old fool, desperate enough for their attention to sign away my life's work. They had no idea that Broderick Thompson had spent 30 years in aerospace engineering planning, for every contingency, calculating every variable. My children had forgotten one crucial thing about their father. I learned long ago that the most dangerous opponent is the one who appears weak while preparing for war. I opened my journal and made another entry. Then, I picked up the phone to schedule appointments with 3 different banks. If my children wanted to play games with my life, they were about to learn that their father had been playing chess while they were still learning checkers. Outside, a storm was building over Dallas. I watched lightning split the sky and thought about Margaret's final words. She knew. Somehow she knew it would come to this. "I'll protect myself," I whispered to her photo. "And when the time is right, they'll understand what they threw away." The thunder that followed sounded like agreement, or perhaps it was warning. Either way, the game had begun, and I intended to win. 2 years into my children's campaign of neglect, I stood outside Douglas's house on Thanksgiving morning, holding a pie I'd bought from the store. Margaret would have been appalled. She always made everything from scratch, especially her famous pecan pie. But Margaret wasn't here to judge my store-bought offerings, or to smooth over the awkwardness of what I was about to do. I rang the doorbell. Through the side window, I could see at least 15 people inside. The dining room table was extended to its full length, covered with china I recognized as Margaret's wedding set. The same china I thought was still in my buffet at home. Jennifer answered the door. Her smile faltered when she saw me. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "It's Thanksgiving. I brought pie." She glanced over her shoulder nervously. "I thought Patricia was having you over." "No, Patricia said you were hosting." Douglas appeared behind her wine glass in hand. Dad, this is awkward. We only planned for immediate family. I looked past him at the crowd. I recognized Jennifer's in-laws, Patricia's boyfriend's parents, even Douglas's college roommate. And I'm not immediate family. You know what I mean. We didn't think you'd want to deal with all these people. You've been so fragile lately. Fragile. There was that word again, part of their expanding vocabulary of lies. I'll just drop off the pie then, I said, extending the box. Douglas didn't take it. Actually, we're all set on desserts. Maybe save it for your dinner. My dinner. The one I'd be eating alone from a microwave. I nodded, turned, and walked back to my car. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of them in my rearview mirror, already laughing about something, the awkward moment of their father at the door, already forgotten. That evening, I ate a turkey sandwich and watched football alone. The next morning, I opened Facebook to find dozens of photos from Douglas's Thanksgiving feast. Grateful for family, he'd captioned them. In every shot, my chair was visible, but empty, like I'd been photoshopped out of their lives. Frank Watson, my next-door neighbor for 12 years, knocked on my door the following week. Broderick, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything okay? Health-wise, I mean. I'm fine, Frank. Why do you ask? He shifted uncomfortably. It's just, Jennifer stopped by the other day when you were out. She was asking if we'd noticed any concerning behavior. Said you've been showing early signs of dementia, and the family is trying to manage it without putting you in a facility. My hands clenched into fists, but I kept my voice level. What exactly did she say I'd done? Forgetting important dates, showing up places unexpectedly, confusion about family plans. She asked us to let her know if we saw you wandering or seeming lost. I invited Frank in and showed him my calendar. Every missed dinner, every forgotten birthday, every excluded holiday was circled in red with notes. Then I played him a voicemail from Jennifer from 3 weeks ago, claiming they'd told me about Thanksgiving plans I'd never heard. Frank's face went pale. She's lying, but why? Would you be willing to write down what Jennifer told you, date it, and sign it? Of course. Broderick, this is… I don't understand. Your kids always seem so devoted to Margaret. Margaret was the glue, I said simply. Without her, I'm just an ATM. They're waiting to empty. Frank wrote a detailed statement. I added it to my growing file. That night, I called Harold to update him on the latest development. They're building a case, Harold said grimly. Public perception of mental decline concerned family members, an elderly man living alone. In 2 or 3 years, they could petition for conservatorship. Over my dead body. That might be their backup plan, Harold said, and he wasn't joking. Christmas came with its own fresh hell. I received a group text on December 23rd. Dad, we're doing a siblings-only Christmas this year. We'll see you after the new year. Siblings only. As if I were some distant relative instead of their father. I spent Christmas Day volunteering at a soup kitchen, which turned out to be more family warmth than I'd have gotten at home. But I made sure to document their exclusion, including screenshots of Patricia's Instagram, showing a massive family gathering with cousins, aunts, and uncles I hadn't seen since Margaret's funeral. In February, something shifted. Douglas actually called me. Dad, I need your help. For a moment, my heart lifted. Then he continued. I'm trying to secure a loan for a new house, and the bank wants to see family assets. Can you write a letter stating that my inheritance will include the lake house? Your inheritance? I'm not dead yet, son. You know what I mean. For planning purposes. The bank just needs to know future assets. I'll think about it. Dad, I need this. Don't be difficult. Difficult. Add that to fragile and confused. Send me the bank's requirements. I'll have Harold look at them. Douglas's tone turned cold. I don't need your lawyer involved in my mortgage application. Then I guess you don't need my letter. He hung up. 3 days later, all 3 children were suddenly available for dinner. They arrived together, a united front. Jennifer brought flowers, Patricia carried wine, and Douglas had a folder of documents. so transparent. "We're worried about you, Dad," Patricia started as we sat down to the meal I'd prepared. "Living alone in this big house, managing all these properties. It's a lot for someone your age." "I'm 60, not 90. "Still," Jennifer said, "wouldn't it be easier if we helped manage things, just temporarily?" Douglas slid the folder across the table. "We've had these papers drawn up. Simple power of attorney, just for the real estate." I opened the folder, scanning the documents. They weren't just for real estate. They covered everything: bank accounts, investments, medical decisions. It was a complete takeover disguised as help. "Who drew these up?" "Patricia's friend from law school. Not a real estate attorney." They exchanged glances. "Does it matter?" Douglas asked. I closed the folder. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm managing fine." "Are you?" Patricia leaned forward, her doctor voice on. "You missed Thanksgiving, forgot Christmas plans, and Frank Watson says you've been behaving strangely." "Frank Watson knows the truth now. Would you like me to call him?" The silence was deafening. Finally, Douglas tried one more time. "Dad, we're just trying to help." "No, you're trying to help yourselves to what your mother and I built while telling the world I'm losing my mind. Dinner's over." They left quickly after that, taking their flowers, their wine, and their legal documents. I kept the recording of the entire conversation. That night, I made a decision. I liquidated 2 investment accounts and moved the money to banks my children didn't know about. I had Harold create a revocable trust that would protect my assets if anyone tried to declare me incompetent. And I started researching something else: legal name changes. The final straw came in March. I was at the grocery store when Helen Martinez, whose daughter went to school with Patricia, stopped me. "Broderick, I just want you to know that if you need help, my husband specializes in elder law. Patricia mentioned you've been struggling." "What exactly did Patricia say?" Helen looked uncomfortable. "That you've been showing signs of decline, paranoia, confusion, anger at family members. She's so worried but doesn't want to force you into care." I thanked Helen and finished my shopping. At home, I called the 3 friends Patricia had mentioned as references for her medical residency years ago. All 3 confirmed that Patricia had been telling them about my decline for months. That evening, I stood in my study, looking at the wall of family photos. 3 children raised with love, given every opportunity, supported through college and beyond. Now, they were systematically destroying my reputation to justify taking everything I'd worked for. I picked up a photo from Douglas's wedding. Margaret glowing in blue silk, me in my first custom tuxedo, Douglas looking young and hopeful. I'd given a toast that night about family being the only real wealth. The irony wasn't lost on me now. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "Dad, we're having an Easter egg hunt for the kids. You don't need to come. It would probably be too much stimulation for you. We'll send pictures." Too much stimulation. From plastic eggs and grandchildren I barely knew. I set the photo down and opened my laptop. The website for the Montana Bar Association filled my screen. Name changes, it explained, were simpler than most people thought. A matter of paperwork, court appearances, and valid reasons. Valid reasons. I looked around my study at the documentation I'd gathered. 2 years of calculated cruelty disguised as concern. Systematic isolation, wrapped in false worry. Financial predation dressed up as family assistance. If that wasn't a valid reason to disappear, nothing was. I closed the laptop and picked up my journal. March 15th, I wrote, "Jennifer suggests Easter would be too much stimulation." Added to file. Consulted Harold about accelerating asset protection. Beginning research into relocation options. Then I added one more line. "They want Broderick Thompson to disappear. They're about to get their wish." Thunder rolled across the Dallas sky, the spring storms arriving early. I thought about storms and transformations, about old lives ending and new ones beginning. Somewhere out there was a place where nobody knew Broderick Thompson, where 3 ungrateful children hadn't poisoned his reputation, where he could just be a man starting over. I picked up my phone and scrolled through contacts, until I found someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Marcus Chen, my college roommate, who'd moved to Montana after retirement. He'd been inviting me to visit for ages. "Marcus, it's Broderick. About that standing invitation to see Montana." As Marcus's familiar voice filled my ear with enthusiasm about mountain views and peaceful towns, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 2 years' hope. My children thought they were burying me alive. They had no idea I was about to resurrect myself as someone they'd never find. The storm outside intensified, but for the first time since Margaret's death, I didn't feel its chill. I was already gone. My body just hadn't caught up with my decision yet. Year 4 began with a birth announcement I found out about through social media. Douglas had posted a photo of 2 newborns, my grandsons, with the caption, "Welcome to the world, James and Michael." I stared at my phone screen calculating. Douglas's wife had been pregnant for 9 months, and not once had they told me. I was finding out about my first grandchildren the same way distant acquaintances would. The hurt was a physical thing, sharp and breathless. Margaret would have been knitting blankets for months. She would have been at the hospital, would have held those babies in their first hours of life. Instead, I was looking at them through a phone screen, already 3 days old. I went to the store immediately, buying 2 of everything. Cribs for my house, car seats, toys, clothes in various sizes. The nursery Margaret had always dreamed of filling came together over the next week. I had it professionally photographed and sent the images to Douglas with a message, "Ready whenever you want to bring the boys over." His response was brief, "Thanks, but we have everything we need." I tried again 2 weeks later, showing up at his house with gifts. Amy, his wife, answered the door with 1 baby in her arms. "Mr. Thompson, Douglas isn't home." "I came to meet my grandsons. I brought some things." She glanced nervously over her shoulder. "I don't think—" Douglas said. "Said what?" "That you weren't stable enough to be around the babies. I'm sorry." She closed the door in my face. I stood there holding silver rattles engraved with their names, listening to my grandson cry on the other side of a door I wasn't allowed to cross. That evening, I had Harold draft a letter formally requesting grandparent visitation rights. Harold tried to talk me out of it. "It'll escalate things, Broderick. Maybe try talking to them first." "I've been trying for 4 years, Harold. They're using my grandchildren as weapons now." The letter was never sent. Patricia called me the next day, her voice dripping with false concern. "Dad, Amy told us about your visit. Showing up unannounced, making demands threatening legal action. This erratic behavior is exactly what we've been worried about." Wanting to meet my grandchildren is erratic. The way you're going about it is, if you can't respect boundaries, how can we trust you with infants? Boundaries. They'd built a fortress around their lives and called it boundaries. I started sending savings bonds for the boys every month. $500 each, registered in their names. The bonds were cashed, but no acknowledgement ever came. I kept the receipts, adding them to my ever-growing documentation file. 6 months later, Jennifer had her announcement. A daughter, Sophia. This time, I didn't find out through social media. I found out when a mutual friend mentioned it at the golf club. "Jennifer must be over the moon," Robert said. "First grandchild for you. You must be thrilled." I maintained my composure. "Yes, very exciting." "When's she due?" "Soon," I said vaguely, having no idea my daughter had been pregnant at all. I confronted Jennifer directly, this time calling her office. "Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" "Oh, Dad, I meant to. Things have been so busy. Besides, you seemed overwhelmed when Douglas had the twins." "I never even met Douglas's twins." "Exactly. We thought it best not to burden you with more baby news." The circular logic was dizzying. They kept me from my grandchildren, then used my absence as proof I couldn't handle being a grandfather. When Sophia was born, I learned about it from the hospital gift shop employee. I'd been sending flowers to the maternity ward regularly, hoping to catch the birth. The florist called to confirm the delivery. "Room 302, Jennifer Morrison, right beautiful baby girl." I rushed to the hospital with a teddy bear and a jewelry box containing Margaret's pearl necklace, the one she'd always said would go to our first granddaughter. Hospital security stopped me at the maternity ward. "I'm sorry, sir. You're not on the approved visitor list." "I'm her father." "I understand, but Ms. Morrison specifically excluded you. If you'd like to wait in the main lobby, I can call her room." I waited 3 hours. Finally, a nurse came down with a message. "Your daughter says thank you for the gifts, but she needs rest. She'll call you when she's ready for visitors." She never called. The teddy bear was donated to the children's wing. The pearls went back in my safe where they'd stay until someone in this family remembered that love mattered more than money. Patricia's engagement came next. I found out when her boyfriend Richard's mother mentioned it at the pharmacy. "You must be so excited about the wedding planning," she gushed. I manufactured a smile. "Very excited." "Patricia said you're walking her down the aisle. Such a special moment for a father." Another lie to add to the collection. I hadn't been told about an engagement, much less asked about walking her down any aisle. The private investigator I hired confirmed what I suspected. Not only were they planning a wedding without me, but they'd been telling vendors I was too ill to participate in planning, but would be paying for everything. "They've been charging deposits to credit cards opened in your name," the investigator Sam Reeves explained. "Here's the paper trail." Identity theft. My youngest daughter had committed identity theft. "There's more," Sam continued. "I interviewed some of the vendors. Patricia told the wedding planner that you have Alzheimer's. Said that's why she's handling all the financial arrangements. The planner was told to send all bills to Patricia's address to avoid confusion." I filed a police report that afternoon, not to press charges, but to document the fraud. The officer taking the report looked at me with sympathy. "Your own kid did this. All 3 of them in different ways. You pressing charges?" "Not yet. I'm giving them rope. To hang themselves with, to weave their own net. When I finally drop them, I want them to understand it was their own actions that did it." Year 5 brought Douglas's promotion to senior partner, a goal he'd worked toward his entire career. I knew because his firm sent out a press release. I wasn't invited to the celebration dinner. But I was invited to one event, a meeting at Patricia's house to discuss estate planning. I arrived to find all 3 children and a man I didn't recognize. "Dad." Douglas said, "This is Dr. Henley, Patricia's colleague. He specializes in geriatric psychology." A setup, an ambush designed to look like concern. "Mr. Thompson." Dr. Henley began, "Your children have shared some worries about your recent behavior. Paranoia, false memories, aggression. Did they share the recordings of them planning to steal my assets? Or the documented evidence of Patricia's credit card fraud? How about the affidavits from neighbors about Jennifer's lies?" Dr. Henley glanced uncertainly at Patricia, who jumped in. "This is exactly what we mean. These delusions about persecution." I pulled out my phone and played a recording from 2 years ago. Patricia's voice filled the room. "Just 2 more years until we can file for power of attorney based on abandonment concerns. Dr. Henley will testify about his declining mental state. I've been feeding him information for years." The room went silent. Dr. Henley's face went white as he realized he'd been used. "I think," he said slowly, "that I've been given incomplete information. Mr. Thompson, I apologize. Patricia, we need to discuss this privately." He left quickly. My children sat frozen, their ambush turned against them. 4 years, I said quietly. 4 years of you telling everyone I'm losing my mind, while you systematically strip me from your lives. Using my grandchildren as weapons. Stealing my identity. Planning to take everything your mother and I built. Dad, Jennifer started. "No. I'm done listening to you. I know about the wedding, Patricia. I know about the credit cards. I know about you poisoning my reputation with every mutual acquaintance we have. I know everything." Douglas found his voice. "So, what are you going to do? Cut us off?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Cut you off. You cut me off years ago. You just kept my wallet. We're your children, Patricia said, tears starting. You can't just abandon us. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. Watch me. I left them sitting in Patricia's living room, their careful plans in ruins. In my car, I called Sam Reeves. How quickly can you get me a complete background check on a new identity? How new are we talking? Complete restart. New name, new state, new life. That's a big step, Broderick. My grandsons are 18 months old and I've never held them. My granddaughter is 6 months old and I'm not allowed to see her. My daughter is planning a wedding. I'm not invited to while using credit cards in my name. Tell me what's left to salvage here. Sam was quiet for a moment. Nothing. I'll start the paperwork. That night, I sat in the nursery I'd prepared for grandchildren who'd never see it. The cribs were still wrapped in plastic. The toys sat untouched on shelves. Above the changing table hung a photo of Margaret holding baby Douglas, her face radiant with grandmother's joy. I told her photo. I did everything I could think of. But they're not the children we raised. I don't know who these people are. I started making lists that night. What to keep, what to sell, what to leave behind. It was surprisingly easy to separate a lifetime of possessions into categories. The hardest part was deciding what to do with the photo albums. 30 years of family memories, and now looking at them felt like viewing evidence of a crime. In the end, I decided to digitize them all. Not to take with me, but to leave behind. Let my children have the photos. They could pretend we were a happy family to their friends. I'd have something better, a future without their poison. The next morning, I met with a real estate agent about selling the house. Not a local one. Someone from Houston who wouldn't know my children. It's a beautiful property, she said. May I ask why you're selling? Time for a fresh start. My wife past kids have their own lives. This house is too full of ghosts. She nodded sympathetically, not knowing the ghosts were still breathing, still calling themselves my children while planning my financial funeral. As we toured the rooms where my family had fallen apart, I felt the decision crystallize. They wanted Broderick Thompson's money without Broderick Thompson's presence. They were about to learn that you couldn't have one without the other. How fast can you sell it? I asked. In this market, with cash buyers, maybe 2 weeks. Do it. And I'll need a referral for someone discreet to handle an estate sale. Everything must go. She sensed the urgency and didn't pry. I know just the person. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, Broderick Thompson would cease to exist. And somewhere in Montana, a man named William Carter would begin a life where love wasn't measured in dollars and family wasn't defined by blood. The irony was perfect. They'd spent 5 years telling everyone I was losing myself. They had no idea how right they were about to be. My 65th birthday arrived with the kind of sunny Dallas morning that Margaret used to call God's gift weather. I woke early, as had become my habit in the 7 years since her death. The house felt especially empty that morning, perhaps because birthdays are meant to be shared, or perhaps because I knew this would be my last one as Broderick Thompson. I made coffee in the kitchen where Margaret had surprised me with birthday breakfasts for 35 years. No bacon sizzling today, no candles and pancakes, no off-key singing from the woman who couldn't carry a tune, but sang anyway because she loved me. On impulse, or maybe desperation, I opened Facebook and typed out a message. Today marks my 65th birthday and my 7th year navigating life without my beloved Margaret. While I'm grateful for the years we shared, I find myself missing my children and grandchildren more with each passing day. To Douglas, Jennifer, and Patricia, my door remains open, my phone remains on, and my heart remains hopeful that we can rebuild what we've lost. Love always, Dad. I tagged all 3 of them and hit post. Within an hour, it had dozens of likes and comments from friends and distant relatives wishing me well. My children's response came 3 hours later, in the form of synchronized public comments, clearly coordinated in a group text. Douglas, some relationships are too toxic to maintain. Wishing you peace on your journey. Jennifer, Mental health struggles affect entire families. We're doing what's best for everyone involved. Patricia, boundaries are necessary for healing. We hope you get the help you need. Toxic. Mental health struggles. Boundaries. They'd turned me into a public mental patient with 3 sentences they're gaslighting now on full display for everyone we knew. The comment section exploded. Well-meaning friends tried to mediate. Relatives expressed shock. Former colleagues who'd known me for decades pushed back against the implications. But the damage was done. My children had just announced to the world that I was mentally unstable, and they were protecting themselves from me. I screenshot everything and closed my laptop. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Harold. Broderick, I just saw… Christ, I'm sorry. On your birthday. It's actually perfect timing, Harold. I want to liquidate everything by month's end. Everything that's $50 million in assets, not counting the properties. Then we better get started. That afternoon, I was at the grocery store buying a single-serving birthday cake when I felt the familiar chest tightness. Not emotional this time, physical. The pain shot down my left arm, textbook perfect. I drove myself to the emergency room, checking in with remarkable calm for a man possibly having a heart attack. The triage nurse, seeing my symptoms and age, rushed me back immediately. 4 hours later, Dr. Williams sat beside my bed. Mr. Thompson, you've had what we call a cardiac event. Not a full heart attack, but a warning. Your stress levels are dangerously high. Do you have family we should call? I have 3 children. Would you like us to contact them? I gave him Douglas's number, the son who'd wanted to be a doctor, before choosing law for the money. Maybe a call from an actual hospital would penetrate their wall of indifference. 20 minutes later, the nurse returned. I reached your son. He asked about your insurance information and said he'd try to stop by later. Try to stop by. His father in the cardiac unit, and he'd try. I spent the night in the hospital running tests. No visitors came, no calls. The next morning, as I was being discharged, my phone finally rang. Douglas. Dad. Sorry I couldn't make it yesterday. Listen about your insurance. I'm fine, Douglas. Thanks for asking. Right, good. So the hospital billing department called me as your emergency contact. They need to verify your assets for some Medicare paperwork. Is this about money? Because Mom left everything to us in her will anyway. The words hit harder than the cardiac event had. What did you just say? Mom's will. She changed it before she died. Didn't she tell you? We each get our portion directly. You just have life estate on the properties. Your mother was on morphine and fentanyl in her final weeks. She wasn't legally capable of changing a will. Patricia says she was lucid when she signed. She has the documentation. The final puzzle piece clicked into place. They hadn't just been waiting for me to die. They'd manipulated their dying mother into cutting me out of my own estate. The woman I'd loved for 35 years who'd built this life alongside me, and they'd turned her into a weapon against me in her final days. Douglas, I need you to listen very carefully. What you just told me constitutes elder financial abuse and fraud. Your mother's oncologist documented her cognitive decline from the medications. Any will changes made during that period are invalid. Are you threatening me? On your birthday from a hospital bed, you're threatening your children? I'm stating facts. Here's another fact. I'm done pretending you're still my son. I hung up and immediately called Harold. They got to Margaret before she died. Fraudulent will changes. I want a full investigation. Broderick, you just had a cardiac event. Maybe we should… Harold, they stole from their dying mother to steal from me. Start the investigation. The next day, Patricia sent a text that would have been funny if it wasn't so calculating. Dad, I'm concerned about your mental state. Your behavior at the hospital, these paranoid accusations about Mom's will, the way you've been acting online. I think it's time we discussed power of attorney. Dr. Henley has agreed to provide an evaluation, stating you're no longer capable of managing your affairs. We can do this voluntarily, or we can go through the courts. Your choice. I forwarded the text to Harold with one word: Accelerate. What Patricia didn't know was that Dr. Henley had already contacted me after our last encounter, appalled at being manipulated. He'd provided a written statement that Patricia had been feeding him false information about my mental state for years. Her threat was empty, but she didn't know that yet. That evening, I sat in my study going through Margaret's things. In her jewelry box beneath the pearls I'd tried to give our granddaughter, I found a note in her handwriting. Broderick, if you're reading this, things have gone wrong. I see how they look at us now, like we're already dead, just bank accounts waiting to be emptied. I tried to protect you in my will, but I'm scared they'll find a way around it. Don't let them win. Be happy. Find love again. Live. M. She'd known. Even dying, pumped full of painkillers, she'd known what they were doing and tried to warn me. I made 3 decisions that night. First, I called the investigator, Sam Reeves. I need everything moved up. New identity documents, bank accounts, everything. I'm leaving Dallas within the month. Second, I had Harold draft a letter to be sent to all 3 children simultaneously. Any attempts to pursue power of attorney conservatorship or challenges to your father's mental capacity will be met with criminal charges for elder abuse fraud and identity theft. Evidence has been provided to the Dallas Police Department and Adult Protective Services. This is your only warning. Third, I booked a one-way ticket to Whitefish, Montana, leaving in 3 weeks. The response to Harold's letter was immediate. All 3 children called within minutes of each other. I didn't answer. They texted frantically. I didn't respond. They showed up at my house together for the first time in years. I didn't answer the door. Finally, Douglas left a voicemail. Dad, this is insane. We're your children. We're just trying to help. Call us back so we can work this out. Work this out. After 7 years of calculated cruelty, they wanted to work things out because their scheme was falling apart. I listened to their messages while packing Margaret's photos. Not the family photos. Those would stay with the house. Just pictures of her and me. Our wedding. Our honeymoon. Our quiet moments before the children came and after they left. The real treasure of our marriage. Jennifer's message was next. Daddy, please. We love you. We've always loved you. Things just got complicated after Mom died. We can fix this. Complicated. That's what they called systematic emotional and financial abuse. Complicated. Patricia's was last, Dad, you're not well. This paranoia, this running away plan, it's not you. Let us help. Don't do something you'll regret. Regret. The only thing I regretted was not seeing them clearly sooner. As I sealed the last box of belongings I'd take to Montana, my phone buzzed with a group text from all 3. Dad, we've scheduled a family meeting for tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Douglas's office. We'll have a mediator present. Please come so we can resolve this like a family. I texted back one word, no. Then I blocked all 3 numbers. That night, for the first time in 7 years, I slept peacefully. The chest pains were gone. The stress that had been slowly killing me lifted like fog burning off in morning sun. Tomorrow, the estate sale would begin. In 2 weeks, the house would close. In 3 weeks, Broderick Thompson would board a plane and never look back. My children thought they'd broken me. They were right. They'd broken the father who would have forgiven anything, who would have spent his last dollar on their happiness, who would have died believing blood meant more than behavior. From those ashes, someone new was rising. Someone who understood that family isn't about DNA or inheritance or obligation. It's about choosing to love and being chosen in return. William Carter understood that. He was waiting for me in Montana, ready to begin a life where birthdays were celebrated, where grandchildren were held, where love wasn't conditional on bank balances. Broderick Thompson had 3 more weeks to live. He intended to make them count. 3 weeks after my cardiac event, I stood in my empty house one last time. The estate sale had been brutally efficient. Furniture, electronics, 30 years of accumulation. All converted to cash and wired to accounts my children would never find. The walls showed pale rectangles where family photos once hung ghostly reminders of the life I was leaving behind. In my pocket was a driver's license with my new name, William Robert Carter. The man at the DMV had barely glanced at the court order. In Montana, reinvention was practically a state tradition. Harold had handled the Dallas house closing remotely. The buyers, a young couple expecting their first child, would never know the family war that had played out in these rooms. Maybe they'd have better luck with love under this roof. "Transport's here," Sam Reeves called from the front door. He'd insisted on driving me to the airport personally. "You sure about this, Broderick? I mean, William?" "Never been more sure of anything." I took one last look at the kitchen where Margaret had danced to Motown, while cooking the living room where we'd hosted 30 Christmases, the stairs my children had thundered down on birthday mornings. Then I walked out and didn't look back. The flight to Montana felt like traveling between lives. Below me, Texas disappeared into clouds, taking Broderick Thompson with it. By the time we descended into Glacier Park International Airport, William Carter was breathing mountain air. Marcus Chen met me at baggage claim, his face creased with concern and curiosity. "You look different," he said after a bear hug. Lighter somehow. "New name, new life. I'll explain everything over dinner." Whitefish, Montana, was everything Dallas wasn't. Small enough that people nodded on the streets, large enough to disappear in. Mountains ringed the horizon like protective walls. The air smelled of pine and possibility. Marcus had found me a furnished rental on the edge of town, a modest 2-bedroom with a workshop in the garage. "Figured you'd want to get back to woodworking," he said. "Remember those pieces you made in college?" I did remember. Before aerospace engineering, before corporate life, before fatherhood consumed me, I'd loved working with my hands. Margaret had encouraged me to keep a workshop, but somewhere between promotions and soccer games, the tools had gathered dust. That first week, I established my new life with methodical precision. Bank accounts as William Carter, library card, grocery store rewards program. Each mundane document another layer of distance between who I'd been and who I was becoming. At the Whitefish Community Center, I signed up for a grief support group. Not for Margaret. That grief had mellowed into bittersweet memory. This was for the family I'd lost while they were still breathing. The group met Wednesday evenings in a circle of mismatched chairs that had seen too many tears. Our facilitator, Dr. Elizabeth Hartley, had the kind of presence that made silence comfortable. "We have a new member tonight," she said at my first meeting. "William, would you like to share what brought you here?" "I lost my wife 8 years ago," I began. "But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I recently lost my children. Not to death, but to greed. They're alive somewhere in Texas planning my funeral while spending my money." The circle absorbed this without judgment. Here, loss took many forms. After the meeting, a woman approached me. Sarah Mitchell. I'd learned, though, she introduced herself simply as another refugee from a former life. She was perhaps 60 with silver hair and eyes that held their own grief stories. "Children who choose money over memory," she said. "I know that particular pain." Coffee. We talked until the coffee shop closed. Her story was a mirror of mine. Successful husband dies, children circle like vultures. Mother discarded once the estate was distributed. She'd fled Ohio 2 years ago. "Best decision I ever made," she said. "Though some nights, I still dream about the grandchildren I'll never know." "How do you handle it?" "I build a new family. People who choose to be in my life, not those obligated by blood." She smiled. "Speaking of which, you should join our Thursday woodworking group. We're all refugees of one sort or another." The woodworking group met in a converted barn owned by Jim Patterson, a Vietnam vet who'd found peace in sawdust and precision. The others were an eclectic mix: retired teachers, recovering addicts, widowers, divorcees. All of us sanding away our past lives, crafting something new from raw wood. "What are you making?" Sarah asked during my 3rd week watching me work on what was becoming a jewelry box. "I'm not sure yet. My hands seem to know even if I don't." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. That's the best kind of creating. 3 months into my Montana life, Harold called with an update. Your children hired a private investigator. He's been asking questions in Dallas, showing your photo around. Let him look. Broderick Thompson doesn't exist anymore. They also tried to challenge the will situation. Judge threw it out when he saw the medical records. Patricia's facing potential criminal charges for the forged documents. I don't want to know, Harold. That's not my life anymore. But the past wasn't finished with me yet. One morning, I opened my door to find a familiar face, Sam Reeves, the investigator who'd helped me disappear, now apparently working for the other side. Hello, William, he said carefully. Or should I say Broderick? William. Broderick died in Dallas. What do you want, Sam? Your children hired me. They're desperate, William. Whatever happened between you, they want to make it right. They want to make it right. I laughed, but it wasn't bitter anymore. Just tired. They had 7 years to make it right. Every unreturned call, every excluded holiday, every lie about my mental state. Those were choices, Sam. Now, I've made mine. They're talking about flying out here. Then, they'll find William Carter, who has no children. I'll deny knowing any Broderick Thompson, and there's not a court in Montana that will say different. Sam studied me for a long moment. You've really done it. Complete reinvention. I learned from the best. My children taught me that family is just a word if there's no love behind it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a woodworking class to teach. That afternoon, I told Sarah about Sam's visit as we worked on a commissioned dining set together. Are you worried they'll come? She asked. Let them come. They'll find a stranger living a life they have no part in. Sarah set down her sandpaper and looked at me intently. Can I ask you something? Do you ever regret it? The complete cutoff. I thought about it while running my hand over the smooth wood grain. I regret that it was necessary. I regret raising children who could do what they did. But leaving, starting over, no. That saved my life, literally. The stress was killing me. And now I wake up without dread. I have friends who value me, for me, not my bank account. I create beautiful things with my hands. I'm part of a community that doesn't question my sanity or plot my financial demise. I met her eyes. I'm happy, Sarah. Happier than I've been since Margaret died. She smiled that warm smile that had become precious to me. Good. You deserve happiness. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Jennifer had found a way around the block. Dad, please. We made mistakes. Let us fix this. I deleted it without responding. Then I did something more important. I asked Sarah to dinner. A real date? She asked, surprised. A real date? Unless you think it's too soon, or... William Carter. She interrupted. I would love to have dinner with you. We went to a small Italian place downtown, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles. Over pasta and good wine, we talked about everything except our former lives. She told me about her volunteer work with the library, her hiking adventures, her terrible attempts at sourdough baking. I told her about the furniture I was building, the peace I'd found in Montana winters, the way mountain mornings made me feel 20 years younger. You know what I love about us, she said over tiramisu. We're proof that life can begin again at any age, that choosing happiness isn't selfish, it's survival. Walking her home under Montana stars, I felt Margaret's presence like a benediction. She told me to find love again, to live. In her final note, she'd known I'd need permission to be happy without her. I'd like to see you again, I said at Sarah's door. I'd like that too, William. Very much. As I walked home, my phone buzzed with another unknown number. This time it was Douglas. Dad, we know you're in Montana. Please talk to us. I blocked this number too. Then on impulse threw the phone into the trash can on Main Street. Tomorrow, I'd get a new one with a Montana number this time. William Carter didn't need connections to Texas. 6 months after I'd vanished from Dallas, I stood in my workshop looking at the completed jewelry box. Without conscious planning, I'd recreated the one Margaret had kept her grandmother's pearls in the one that should have gone to our granddaughter. This one would go to Sarah's daughter in California, a woman who called me Mr. William and sent thank you cards for birthday gifts. Outside, early snow dusted the mountains like powdered sugar. Inside, wood shavings curled on the floor, and somewhere in Texas, 3 adults who shared my DNA were discovering that money without family was just paper. They'd gotten exactly what they'd wanted, all of Broderick Thompson's assets, and none of Broderick Thompson. The joke was on them. The real treasure had escaped to Montana, changed its name to William Carter, and found a second chance at happiness they'd never understand. I swept up the wood shavings and prepared to close shop. Sarah and I had dinner plans, and her kids were visiting next week. They wanted to meet the man who'd made their mother smile again. Family, I'd learned, wasn't about blood. It was about choosing each other again and again in small moments and grand gestures. My children had taught me that lesson through their absence. Now I was learning its flip side, through presence, through people who showed up, not for my money, but for my company. William Carter was a lucky man, luckier than Broderick Thompson had ever been, and that perhaps was the greatest revenge of all. Not anger or bitterness, but simple, profound happiness in a life they'd never touch again. The knock came on a Tuesday morning, 6 months after my disappearance, exactly as Sam had warned. But it wasn't my children at the door. It was a different private investigator, a young man with eager eyes and a folder thick with documentation. Mr. Thompson, Broderick Thompson. I smiled pleasantly. Sorry, son. Name's William Carter. You've got the wrong house. He pulled out a photo, one of the last taken of me in Dallas. This is you, sir. I've been hired by the Thompson family to locate Broderick Thompson. Good luck with your search. That fellow looks nothing like me. I started to close the door. Wait. He thrust the folder forward. Your children want to reconcile. They're prepared to fly out immediately. They just need confirmation you're alive and well. Sarah appeared beside me, coffee mug in hand. Honey, who's at the door? Someone looking for a man named Broderick Thompson. Ever heard of him, sweetheart? She studied the photo with theatrical concentration. There's a vague resemblance to you, William, but this man looks so sad, so worn down. She smiled at me. Nothing like my vibrant husband. The investigator's eyes widened at the word husband. You're married, but the records show. William Carter married Sarah Mitchell 3 months ago, I said calmly. Beautiful ceremony at the courthouse. Judge Henderson presiding. You're welcome to check the public records. The young man looked between us clearly out of his depth. Sir, Your children are very concerned. They say there was a misunderstanding. Young man, Sarah interjected with her judge voice. She'd finally told me about her former career on the bench. You're harassing my husband about someone else's family drama. I suggest you leave before I call the sheriff. Mike's an old friend. He retreated, but I knew this wasn't over. Sure enough, 3 days later, a rental car pulled up to our house. Through the window, I watched my children emerge, Douglas in his $1,000 suit, Jennifer clutching her designer purse, Patricia checking her phone. They looked foreign in this Montana setting, like exotic birds blown off course. They're here, I told Sarah quietly. She squeezed my hand. You ready for this? I've been ready for 6 months. The doorbell rang with authority. Douglas's trademark 3 rings. Sarah answered while I stood back in the shadows. Can I help you? We're looking for our father, Broderick Thompson. We know he's living here under the name William Carter. I'm sorry, but there's no one here by either name. My husband and I... Lady, cut the act. Patricia pushed forward. We have proof he's here. Credit card records, utility bills, eyewitness accounts. Those would be for William Carter, my husband of 3 months. Would you like to see our marriage certificate? Jennifer started crying. Please, we just want to see our father. We made terrible mistakes. Sarah's expression softened slightly. I understand you're upset, but... Dad. Douglas had spotted me in the hallway. Dad, it's us. I stepped forward slowly, letting them see me fully. The Montana sun had bronzed my skin. Regular hiking had strengthened my body. Peace had erased years from my face. I looked nothing like the broken man who'd fled Dallas. I'm sorry, I said politely. You must have me confused with someone else. I'm William Carter. Stop it, Patricia's voice cracked. We know it's you. Same height, same eyes, same scar on your left hand from when you built Jennifer's treehouse. I glanced at my unmarred left hand. No scar here, miss. I think you need help. Douglas pulled out his phone, showing a family photo from 10 years ago. This is you. With us with Mom. I studied it with detached interest. Handsome family. That man was lucky to have such beautiful children. Shame they're bothering strangers in Montana instead of being with their father. You are our father, Jennifer sobbed. My wife and I have 2 wonderful children in California, I said. They're visiting next week. Perhaps you should look for your father elsewhere. Dad, please. Douglas's courtroom composure finally cracked. We know we hurt you. We know what we did was wrong. But you can't just erase us. Sir, I said firmly, I'm going to have to ask you to leave my property. You're distressing my wife. Sarah stepped beside me, her arm through mine. William, should I call Sheriff Morrison? Not yet, honey. I'm sure these people were just leaving. Patricia pulled out a document. We have proof DNA tests fingerprint matches from your aerospace work. Fascinating, I said. But William Carter has never worked in aerospace. I'm a furniture maker, have been all my life. The private investigator confirmed it. Douglas insisted. Sam Reeves admitted he helped you. Never heard of him, I said truthfully. Sam had been Broderick's contact, not William's. Jennifer fell to her knees on our porch, the designer dress soaking up Montana morning dew. Daddy, please. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. We were grieving Mom, and we handled it horribly. We pushed you away when we should have held you close. Please forgive us. Please come home. For a moment, I felt the old Broderick stir. The father who'd bandaged their knees and checked for monsters under beds. But then, I remembered 7 years of calculated cruelty. The lies about dementia, the stolen grandchildren, the attempt to rob their dying mother. Ma'am, I said gently, you're obviously in pain, but I can't help you. Your father, whoever he is, made his choice. Maybe you should respect it. How can you stand there and pretend? Patricia screamed. We're your children. Sarah stepped forward, full judge mode activated. I've heard enough. You 3 have 2 minutes to leave this property. Your investigator already confirmed that William Carter exists legally and legitimately. Your father, Broderick Thompson, liquidated his assets and vanished. That's not a crime. Harassment, however, is. You don't understand, Douglas pleaded. We need closure. We need to know why he left. Then perhaps, Sarah said coldly, you should examine your own behavior. From what Williams told me about this Thompson fellow's story, his children spent 7 years treating him like he was already dead. Now they're surprised he made it official. He told you, Patricia caught the slip. So you admit he's... William reads the Dallas newspapers online sometimes. Sarah covered smoothly. Your family drama made quite a splash. Prominent engineer vanishes children, claim mental illness. Ring any bells? They wilted under her stare. My wife, the retired judge, had perfected the art of reducing grown adults to shame-faced children. We made mistakes, Douglas said quietly, but we're still family. Family. I mused, as if tasting a foreign word. Interesting concept. Tell me, in your family, do children tell everyone their father has dementia when he's perfectly healthy? Do they steal from dying mothers? Do they bar fathers from meeting grandchildren? You admit it, Jennifer jumped up. You are our father. I'm speaking hypothetically, I said. Based on those newspaper articles. Fascinating case study in how not to treat family. Patricia pulled out her final weapon, a tablet showing bank records. We've traced the money. Broderick Thompson's assets were transferred to William Carter accounts. That's proof. Sarah laughed, actually laughed. Oh, honey, you really don't understand Montana. Do you half the people here are running from something? Bad marriages, bad jobs, bad families. We don't ask questions about where money comes from as long as it's spent locally. This is insane, Douglas muttered. No, I said, steel entering my voice. Insane is telling your neighbors your father has Alzheimer's when he doesn't. Insane is forging documents while your mother dies. Insane is spending 7 years systematically destroying a man's life, and then expecting him to forgive and forget, because you finally realized the wallet won't open anymore. So you are him, Patricia pointed triumphantly. I'm William Carter, concerned citizen who read about your family's treatment of that poor man. If I were him, which I'm not, I'd tell you that you got exactly what you wanted. All of his money, none of his presents. Congratulations on your success. The silence stretched between us heavy with years of unspoken truths. Finally, Jennifer whispered, the money's gone anyway. The challenges to Mom's will the private investigators, the lawyers. We spent it all trying to find you, trying to fix this. I felt no satisfaction at this news, no vindication, just a weary sadness for the children Margaret and I had somehow failed to raise right. Then perhaps, Sarah said gently, you've learned that money without family is worthless, just as your father learned that family without love is meaningless. Please, Douglas made one last attempt. Just tell us you forgive us. Even if you won't come back, even if you stay William Carter forever, just say you forgive us. I looked at my children, strangers now desperate and broken on my Montana porch. In that moment, I made a choice. Broderick Thompson died the day his children forgot he was more than a bank account, I said softly. But William Carter wishes you well. He hopes you find peace. He hopes you become better parents than you were children. And he hopes you never feel the pain you inflicted on someone who loved you. Is that forgiveness? Patricia asked. It's goodbye, I said firmly. Don't come back. Don't contact us again. Live your lives, learn from your mistakes, and maybe someday you'll understand that love isn't about inheritance or obligations. It's about showing up. I stepped back and closed the door, Sarah's hand steady in mine. Through the window, we watched them linger on the porch. Jennifer weeping, Patricia arguing, Douglas staring at the door as if Will alone could open it. Finally, they returned to their rental car and drove away. You okay? Sarah asked. I thought about it, taking inventory of my emotions. You know what I am. That wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Because you're not Broderick anymore. Not really. You're William, my husband, who makes beautiful furniture and teaches kids woodworking and brings me coffee in bed every morning. When you put it that way, why would I want to be anyone else? That evening, as we sat on our back deck, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold, Sarah asked, "Do you think they'll come back?" No. They got their answer, even if it wasn't the one they wanted. And the grandchildren? Do you regret not knowing them? I thought about the twins who'd be walking now, the granddaughter learning her first words. Broderick regrets it. But William has you, and your children, and your grandchildren, who call me Grandpa Bill. That's enough. More than enough. Sarah leaned against my shoulder. I love you, William Carter. And I love you, Sarah Carter. As darkness settled over Montana, I felt the last chains of my old life fall away. My children had come seeking Broderick Thompson, but he truly was gone. In his place sat William Carter, a man who'd learned that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to become someone new entirely. The mountains stood eternal against the starlight, indifferent to human drama. But in their shadow, a furniture maker and a retired judge had built something my children would never understand. A love based on choice, not obligation. A family created by presence, not blood. And that, I thought, as Sarah's hand found mine in the darkness, was the greatest gift my children had ever given me. the freedom to discover who I could be without them. One year after my children stood on my Montana porch, Sarah and I were preparing for a different kind of family gathering. Her daughter Emma was arriving from California with her husband Marcus and their two children, 8-year-old Lily and 6-year-old James, who had been calling me Grandpa Bill since the day we met. "Grandpa Bill," Lily shouted as they tumbled out of the car. "Did you finish my jewelry box?" "Not only finished," I said, scooping her up, "but I carved your initials right where you asked." James wrapped himself around my leg. "What about my treasure chest?" "Waiting in the workshop, Captain James, with a secret compartment and everything." Emma hugged me warmly. "Dad, you look wonderful. Montana continues to agree with you." Dad. She'd started calling me that 6 months ago, and it still made my heart full. Not because I'd replaced her biological father who'd passed years ago, but because we'd chosen each other. That evening, as we gathered around the dining table I'd built with my own hands, I felt the warmth of real family. Marcus was telling stories from his job as a park ranger. Emma was helping Sarah in the kitchen, their laughter mixing with the clatter of dishes. The children were setting the table, carefully placing each fork and spoon, proud to be helping. After dinner, Harold called from Dallas with news I'd been expecting. "Thought you should know," he said carefully. "Douglas filed for bankruptcy last month. His firm discovered he'd been overcharging clients to cover his debts. He's facing disbarment." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and found I meant it. "There's more. Jennifer's husband left her. Apparently, the stress of the last 2 years, the obsession with finding you the money troubles. It destroyed her marriage. And Patricia lost her medical license. The fraud investigation into your Margaret's will revealed other ethical violations." I stepped onto the porch for privacy, watching the sun set behind the mountains. "They destroyed themselves, Harold. With the same greed that drove you away. It's almost poetic justice. There's no poetry in watching your children fall apart, even from a distance. Do you ever think about reaching out? Broderick Thompson might have. William Carter has a family to focus on." After we hung up, I found Sarah in the kitchen, making hot chocolate for the kids. I told her about my children's downfall. "How do you feel about it?" she asked, knowing me well enough not to assume. "Sad. Not satisfied or vindicated, just sad. They had everything. Education opportunities, a family that loved them. They threw it away for money that's gone now anyway." "Maybe they needed to lose everything to find themselves," Sarah suggested. "Like you did." "Maybe." Lily appeared in the doorway. "Grandpa Bill, will you tell us a story?" "What kind of story would you like?" "One about choosing your family?" I glanced at Sarah, who smiled knowingly. We settled in the living room, the children cuddled on the couch, Emma and Marcus joining us with their hot chocolate. "Once upon a time," I began, "there was a man who thought family was about blood. He believed that being related meant people would always love each other no matter what." "That's silly," James interrupted. "Love is about being nice and showing up for birthdays and making treasure chests together." "You're absolutely right," I said, ruffling his hair. "But this man had to learn that the hard way." I told them a simplified version of my story. A man whose first family forgot how to love, who traveled far away, and found a new family that chose him every single day. The children listened with wide eyes, occasionally asking questions. "Did his first family ever say sorry?" Lily asked. "They did, but sometimes sorry isn't enough if you don't change your behavior." "Did he forgive them?" This from Emma, who knew more of the real story. "He let go of his anger. That's its own kind of forgiveness." Later, after the children were asleep, the adults sat on the deck under the stars. Marcus raised his beer. "To chosen family." "To chosen family," we echoed. "You know," Emma said thoughtfully, "I'm grateful to your first children in a strange way. If they hadn't driven you away, Mom never would have met you. We never would have become a family." Sarah squeezed my hand. "Everything happens for a reason. Speaking of which," I said, "I have something for you both." I retrieved 2 envelopes from inside. I've been working with Harold to set up education trusts for Lily and James. Full college funding, just like I did for my first grandchildren. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Dad, you don't have to. I want to. The difference is, these grandchildren will actually know their grandfather. They'll have memories of building things together, of stories and songs of being loved for who they are, not what they might inherit. Thank you, Marcus said simply. For everything. For loving Emma, for being a grandfather to our kids, for showing us what family really means. The next morning, I was in my workshop early, putting finishing touches on a rocking chair for Sarah's friend, who was expecting her first grandchild. The familiar rhythm of sanding, the smell of wood stain, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful from raw materials. This was my meditation now. A car pulled up outside. Through the window, I saw a young woman exit, looking around uncertainly. Something about her seemed familiar. I stepped out to greet her. Can I help you? She turned, and I saw Jennifer's eyes in a younger face. My granddaughter, Sophia. Are you William Carter? She asked. I am. She took a breath. My name is Sophia Morrison. I think you might be my grandfather. I studied her carefully. 21 years old now, based on the math. College-aged. I don't have any grandchildren named Sophia. Please, she said. I know about everything. What my mom and uncles did. How they drove you away. I've been looking for you for 2 years since I turned 18, and could access some family records. Why? Because I want to know my grandfather. Because I think my family was wrong. Because I've heard stories about who you were before, and I can't reconcile that with the villain my mother made you out to be. I leaned against the workshop door. And what does your mother think about you being here? She doesn't know. We don't talk much anymore. Not since I started asking questions about why we never saw you. Come inside, I said finally. Would you like some coffee? In the kitchen, Sarah took one look at our visitor and understood immediately. She introduced herself warmly, but gave us space to talk. I remember being very young, Sophia said, clutching her mug. Maybe 3 or 4. Someone sent me a teddy bear. Mom threw it away, but I pulled it out of the trash. She was so angry. Later, I learned it was from you. That was a long time ago. I kept it, she continued, hidden in my closet. It was the only thing I had from you. She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo of a well-worn bear. I named him Grandpa Bear. Despite everything, I smiled. He's held up well. Unlike our family, she said bitterly. Do you know what happened to them? Some of it. Mom lost everything in the divorce. Uncle Douglas is basically unemployable. Aunt Patricia is working at a clinic in rural Texas, the only place that would hire her after the license suspension. They blame you. Of course they do. But I blame them, Sophia said fiercely. I've read the court documents, seen the evidence of what they did. Lying about your mental state, forging documents, stealing your identity. Who does that to their own father? People who love money more than family. I don't want money, she said quickly. I have scholarships, I work part-time. I want to know where I come from, who you really are, if you'll let me. I looked at this young woman, seeing echoes of Jennifer, but also something else. Integrity, maybe. Courage, certainly. What do you study? I asked. Social work. I want to help protect elderly people from family financial abuse. She laughed shakily. Ironic, right? Or appropriate, learning from the sins of the past. Would you? She hesitated. Would you tell me about my grandmother? Mom never talks about her. And so I did. I told her about Margaret, the woman who loved terrible puns and perfect gardens, who sang off-key with enthusiasm and defended her children fiercely, even when they were wrong, who died believing in a family that ceased to exist the moment she drew her last breath. Sophia cried, I wish I'd known her. She would have loved you, I said. She always wanted granddaughters to spoil. Is that what this is? Sophia gestured around the kitchen. Your new life. This is my real life. I'm William Carter, furniture maker. I have a wife who chose me, and children who value me, and grandchildren who actually know my face. Your grandfather, Broderick Thompson. He died when his children killed him with their greed. But you're still here, she said softly. Different name, different life, but still here. What do you want from me, Sophia? She met my eyes directly, Jennifer's eyes, but with Margaret's honesty. I want to know if there's room in William Carter's life for a granddaughter who chose him, even if it's too late. Before I could answer, Lily and James burst through the door back from their hike with their parents. Grandpa Bill, James announced, we saw a bear. Well, Marcus says it was just a big dog, but I think it was a bear. They stopped short seeing Sophia. Who's this? Lily asked with childhood directness. I made a decision. This is Sophia. She's a friend who came to visit. Sophia understood, smiling at the children. I love your Grandpa Bill's furniture. Do you help him build things? And just like that, the children were telling her about their projects, dragging her to see the workshop, chattering about secret compartments and carved initials. I watched Sophia interact with them, saw her gentle way, her genuine interest. Emma appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene. I gave her a small nod. We'll talk later, and she smoothly invited Sophia to stay for lunch. The day passed in unexpected harmony. Sophia fit into our rhythm, easily helping with meal prep, listening to Marcus's park stories, playing board games with the kids. She was careful not to claim more than was offered, respectful of the family dynamics she was witnessing. As evening approached, she prepared to leave. Thank you, she said quietly, for showing me what family can be. Where are you staying? Hotel in town. I'll fly back to Texas tomorrow. And then what? She shrugged. Finish my degree. Try to be better than where I came from. I wrote something on a piece of paper. My email. William Carter's email. If you want to write, I'll write back. If you want to visit, we'll see. Her eyes filled. Really? You're not responsible for your mother's choices. But Sophia, this has to be separate from them. I won't be a bridge back to that life. I understand. I don't want that either. After she left, Sarah found me in the workshop. You okay? I think so. She's not like them. No, Sarah agreed. She's like Margaret. I saw it the moment she walked in. Same kindness. Is it fair to let her in, but not her brothers? They didn't choose their parents either. Fair isn't the right question, Sarah said. The question is, does she add to our life or complicate it? From what I saw today, she fits right in. That night I carved a small pendant. A bear, of course. Something to match the childhood toy she'd saved. If she came back, if this tentative connection grew, she'd have something made by my hands. By William Carter's hands. A week later, an email arrived. Dear Grandpa Bill, thank you for giving me a chance. I've been thinking about our talk and about choosing family. I choose you if you'll have me. Not as Broderick Thompson's granddaughter, but as someone who wants to learn from William Carter. Someone who wants to build rather than tear down. Love, Sophia. P.S. James was right. It was definitely a bear. I smiled and began typing a response. Behind me, Sarah read over my shoulder, her hand warm on my back. Looks like our family is growing again, she said. Looks like it is. Through the window, I could see Lily and James playing in the yard, their laughter bright in the mountain air. Soon, there might be another young person at our table, another heart in our chosen family. The greatest revenge I'd learned wasn't anger, or bitterness, or even disappearing. It was building a life so full of love that the past became just that. Past. My children had taught me that blood doesn't guarantee love. Now, Sophia was teaching me that blood doesn't prevent it either when people choose each other. As I finished my email to Sophia, welcoming her back, I thought about circles and cycles, about endings that become beginnings. Broderick Thompson had died alone, abandoned by family. William Carter lived surrounded by love, chosen and choosing every day. In the end, that was the only inheritance that mattered. "Come on," Sarah said, pulling me from my contemplation. "Emma's making her famous lasagna, and the kids want you to read another story after dinner." I saved the email, closed the laptop, and followed my wife into our home full of family. Behind us, the workshop settled into evening quiet, tomorrow's projects waiting patiently. There would be time for everything. Furniture to build stories, to tell letters, to write to a granddaughter finding her way home. Time. The one thing my first family had thought they had plenty of until they didn't. The one thing my new family never took for granted. "Grandpa Bill," Lily called. "Hurry, James is trying to eat all the garlic bread." I laughed and quickened my pace. Somewhere in Texas, 3 adults who shared my DNA were living with the consequences of their choices. Here in Montana, I was living with the joy of mine. William Carter was a wealthy man indeed. Not in dollars, though there were enough of those tucked safely away, but in the currency that actually mattered: love, given freely, family chosen deliberately, and second chances seized fearlessly. The mountains stood witness to it all, ancient and patient, keeping their secrets. And in their shadow, an old man who'd been reborn learned the greatest truth of all. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you truly have. "I'm coming," I called to my grandchildren. My real grandchildren, the ones who knew my face and my heart. Behind me, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of forgiveness and hope. Ahead, my family waited with open arms and garlic bread. I chose forward. I chose love. I chose life. And that choice, renewed every single day, made all the difference. Dear friends, as I share my story with you today, I want you to know that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. When family becomes toxic, when love becomes transaction, when presence becomes painful, you have the right to protect your peace. I found my happiness not through revenge, but through rebirth. Not through bitterness, but through building something better. The family that shares your blood isn't always the family that shares your heart, and that's okay. So I ask you, have you ever had to choose between family and your own well-being? What would you do if the people who should love you most became the ones who hurt you deepest? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find their courage. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about second chances and chosen families. And share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose happiness, even when it means leaving toxicity behind. Thank you for listening to an old man's journey from Broderick to Bill, from abandoned to chosen, from broken to whole. Remember, you can't change how people treat you, but you can change whether you stick around for it. May you find your Montana, whatever that looks like for you. May you find your Sarah in whatever form love takes. And may you find your William Carter, the person you were always meant to be when you stopped letting others define you. Until next time, this is William Carter reminding you that the best chapter of your life might just begin the day you close the book on those who don't value your worth. Be kind to yourselves, friends. You deserve it.